Welcome to Films Apart, the podcast where we poke fun at buried flops, unearth hidden gems, and explore timeless classics.
So grab yourself some popcorn, sit back, and let's break these films apart.
Hello, today's film is Crazy Stupid Love.
Yeah.
So
2011 comedy.
2011 romance comedy.
Rom-com, yeah.
Rom-com.
Yeah.
It's coming to Valentine's Day, so
Yeah.
we're going to watch some rom-coms.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, let's do a little synopsis for the film. Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
So, a synopsis for the film. We see Steve Carell, who plays Cal, going for a divorce with his wife, who he's madly in love with, and she's just not feeling it
High
anymore.
school sweetheart.
Yeah, so they've been dating since they were about, 15, I think they say. So, his wife's played by Julianne Moore,
Yeah.
who plays Emily.
She's having an affair with David
Hagen. I'm not saying it right. Fuck you, Kevin Bacon.
Played by Kevin Bacon, yeah.
The bastard.
Yeah.
So he comes in, wrecks this family. They've got 2 children. And the dad's just destroyed. So he's going to the bar every night, telling everyone that his wife slept with David Lindhagen. Hagen. No, Hagen. And he meets Ryan Gosling, who plays Jacob, who is a sort of
Casanova type character.
Yeah, Casanova. Yeah, he's a player, a ladies' man.
He knows what to do.
Yeah,
to get rid of women.
He takes Cal under his wing and shows him how you pick up women, and tries to make him into a better man.
Yeah. And does he succeed?
Well,
in a roundabout way. He doesn't turn into a better man through doing what he's taught by Jacob. And I think Jacob actually learns more from Cal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite a nice story about 2 men growing.
Bonding.
Yeah. It's a romance between them 2, really.
Yeah. Bit of a bromance.
Yeah.
So, did you enjoy it?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I love this film. It's great.
Yeah, me too.
I
think
twice.
It's a good film.
Mm-hmm.
I've probably seen it. It's probably my 3rd time, I reckon.
Yeah. It's not even down as a comedy. It's just the genre on Google is just romance drama.
Really?
I'd say it's comedy before anything else.
Definitely a rom-com.
Yeah.
And I agree. I'd say it's a comedy before rom.
Yeah.
It's a com before rom.
It's com-rom. So,
I mean, what did you like about it?
What did I like about it? Well, the humour. I thought it was great. The wit of the son as well.
Yeah.
Of this young Robbie who's a bit of a helpless romantic.
One of the strengths I think of this film is the characters.
Yeah.
And we were talking about. I spoke about this with Beck actually, but one of the things we were talking about when we did There's Something in the Barn was the kid characters were a bit sort of
just annoying.
Stereotypical, a girl who's just doesn't want to be there, and a kid who's never told anything, and there was the stereotypes. Whereas the kids in this film, they're not stereotypes. No. I mean, specifically the boy who plays this unashamed kind of romantic, putting himself on the line rather than being this nervous kind of geek, which is often what the stereotype is. And the other character is not the daughter, which is a good character, but the babysitter.
Yeah.
Because she's on a journey of her own, isn't she? And it feels like she's sort of got a whole side story going on. It feels like a lonely journey to me watching that, where she falls in love with Cal. Yeah. And
keep your slotty money. Shouts at Emily. Yeah.
Good characters.
There's a lot of... It's like a love hexagon, I suppose. Yeah.
Is there 6? Or was that just a random shape?
Yeah, I just made a random shape. It's teacher, It's Robbie, babysitter, Cal, Emily, David, Hannah.
We're on 7.
It's more like an octagon.
Octagon. Yeah.
Because then you have Jacob as well. Love
Okay,
octagon.
Yeah. But they're not like all sort of entwined with each other. That would be really weird. Seeing some of them are family members, it would be strange.
Well, not judge. Not watched Clueless yet.
Yeah, that's the next film, isn't it? Yeah, that'd be.
I feel like this is the American version of like Love Actually.
Okay.
Where
I
you have so many different.
It's better.
Okay. You have so many different insights into what love is and what love can be, and what it can do to people, and I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, Crazy Stupid Love.
Yeah. The
different aspect that I thought about the title actually. Do you know, I was going to put this in the any other show business section that we started doing. I suppose we can do that whenever.
Yeah.
It was one of the working titles was The Wingman.
The Wingman.
It was going to be called The Wingman because Steve Carell preferred it. He thought that more accurately described the plot.
Yeah.
Even though he felt it was a bit of a boring title.
Yeah.
I don't think it does accurately describe it, and I think that Crazy Stupid Love is a better title.
Yeah, I do.
But it made me think of, I went to see A Real Pain the other day, which is like one of the ones that's been nominated, and the title basically tells you all that there is to know about it. A Real Pain, it's an all right film, but each of the character is in their own different type of pain.
Yeah,
and and that's what the film's about. And I thought Crazy Stupid Love's similar. Each of the characters got their own crazy stupid love thing going on. But I actually thought that this was a better film than A Real Pain, and A Real Pain's been like heralded as this like really, it's nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars and writing, and it is a good film. But I think this is a better film. Yeah,
I think I like with this like it's really about the coming to the end of love as well at points. With obviously the divorce, we're seeing these people, they've already moved past love for each other, and it's almost about them refinding that and rekindling it with Cal and Emily, and there's the bit obviously where the friends have to pick a side, and he's at the bar, he's invited Bernie round, and he goes, sorry I'm late, I had to run to Macy's on the way over, passes him a bag and go down asks for some Chardonnay, downs it, and goes, Claire said we had to pick a side, and I picked you. I really wanted to pick you, but she picked Emily.
And she wouldn't let me.
I'm sorry, Cal. And he gets up to leave, and Steve Carell's character's going, are you breaking up with me? Bernie, you breaking up with me? I thought that was great.
I tell you what I liked about it was, in simple terms, Ryan Gosling, firstly, he's just really good in whatever he does, isn't he? Yeah. He's just one of those guys. He is one of those guys you want to be, basically, and that character you want to be him. You want to be, on the one hand, you want to be the Casanova, but on the other hand, you want to be the guy that's underneath that Casanova that you were talking about to me before. And also Steve Carell was the other thing. I thought his performance was particularly kind of stood out. It was quite. I don't know if eclectic's the right word. He moved around with it, whereas like if you watch The American Office, it's a great performance, and it's brilliant, and I love it. But it is that character throughout. It's like there isn't. It's just he is who he is, and that's the character, and that's the character throughout. Whereas in this, you had different kind of like aspects of a human being. I think he's an underrated actor, actually, Steve Carell.
Yeah. Even with his comedy films, he always brings something more to it. It's not just to get a laugh. There is something in these characters that he plays. Yeah. There's something more at their heart. And normally, a lot of the time, it is this sort of tragedy and resilience to push on. There's that scene where it's really nice, where he's reminded his wife as he's leaving to take care of the garden, and she's not been. So he sort of comes over every few nights to do the garden, which is it's a little bit weird, because you see him watching the family through the window when they're eating ice cream, and then he sees his wife go off to the laundry and call him and pretend that she needs help relighting the heater or something, and there's this really nice moment where he sees that she does still love me.
I
think that bit's really nice.
The writing of it is not afraid to veer away from a kind of normal values in those sorts of films. Like at the beginning, when he's told that they're going to break up, and he jumps out the car when she's moving, and then he gets back to the house, and he's like, the babysitter's like, "Are you all right?" He's like, "No, she's leaving me. We're getting a divorce," and the kid's there as well. So the kid hears that.
Robbie's there.
And
like,
he goes,
sorry, Robbie, I didn't see that.
Sorry, I didn't see you there. But he doesn't really like try to make a big deal of it. And then he goes, "Did you jump out the car?" And he went, "Yeah, I jumped out the car."
My dad jumped out of a moving car.
Yeah. So I felt like there was like values like that were different to a normal film, and like the relationship with him and Ryan Gosling's character, what's that name again?
Jacob,
yeah. Is one where, so Jacob's kind of guiding him as to be this kind of Casanova throughout the film, and they form like a really good friendship. Mm-hmm. But then, well, I guess this goes into the plot of it really. It's a bit of a spoiler if you haven't seen the film.
Yeah, go watch it if you've not seen it.
They've got 3 kids, and in the film you only see that they've got 2 kids until the end. And there's this kind of side plot going on where the Emma Stone character is
she's the one woman that Jacob couldn't get,
and she's in a relationship where the guy doesn't want to commit.
Yeah,
and eventually those 2 end up getting together. You don't realise at the time that this is Cal's daughter. Yeah, and then at the end there's this big reveal. She introduces her new partner to her dad, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is the guy who's been teaching me to be a slut, essentially." and he goes for him. Yeah. Now I felt like this is really unfair because this guy has helped you through like a really difficult time.
You feel awful for him, don't you?
And not only that, later on when he goes to the bar and he comes to the bar again, he's really having a go at him, and I thought it's interesting values because actually, you know that guy's a good guy. Yeah. But the writer's not afraid to kind of go down that road with it.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I just want to finish on this values thing that was the babysitter takes pictures of herself naked, which she's going to send to Cal. Yeah. and the dad finds them, and there's this whole scene where the dad goes and beats.
It's a crazy. Can we talk about that scene? Actually,
well, come back to it. Let me just say this. And then at the very end, she gives those pictures to the
13-year-old boy,
for however old he is, 13-year-old kid who's obsessed with her. Yeah, and I thought that's a brave thing to do.
That's feeding the problem.
You know, that is like.
That's a brave thing.
But I like the fact that it did it. You know, I like the fact that he didn't care about the values of it. It was like, when we were like, I was watching it with Beck, and we were both like, that's just a bit weird, isn't it? But I'm glad that he did it. I'm glad that that's the way it went down. Go on, do you want to go back to the bit about?
So there's this amazing culmination of all of these love stories coming into one, where you have. Cal finally decides he's been inspired by his son, who basically acts as the adult and is like, "You don't give up on love. I've always looked up to you as this man who fights for what he believes in, and you're not fighting. You've not even fought. You jumped out of the car." Yeah. And Cal realizes that he has to put up a fight, so he sets up like a makeshift mini golf stadium outside in the garden,
which is how they first met and went on their first date.
He got her ice cream, played mini golf, and then he brings her out blindfolded. And previously we've heard on the phone that Jacob is meeting his girlfriend, who it's been going really well with. He's meeting her mother. And then we have a moment where, before the blindfold's taken off, Nana walks in, as they call her, because she couldn't say Hannah as a kid. So you never make that connection that they have a daughter named Hannah. And Jacob's dating her. And her boyfriend walks in, and it's Jacob, and Cal sees him. He's like, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" And then there's just a giant fight where Bernie shows up because he's found these pictures of his daughter addressed to Cal. Yeah. David Lindenhagen shows up, gets battered by Jacob. That's what I love about Jacob. At no point, no matter how much Cal treads him down and tells him, like, "You're not good enough for my daughter," he still has Cal's back, and he still treats him as a friend, and because he reminds him of his dad. Yeah.
He's the bigger man. Yeah, and the nicer guy in it. It's occurred to me that I've got a little bit of like an insecurity now around because of what I was just saying about the values and everything and these kind of pictures and all of this stuff. But I think the reason that I want to explain why I say that, why I like that in films, is not because it's weird or because it's, but it's because it's human.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about the writing, is that when a writer's not afraid to do that stuff, they're showing real people. Yeah. And sometimes in films, they're aware of an audience and they're aware of how things are going to be perceived, and they sanitize it. And in doing so, it ceases to be human. Yeah.
I think that's something that both this film and Clueless, that I'll watch next week, have in common. They're not afraid to go into the sort of weirder aspects of love and affection and sort of the craziness.
That's a good point. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that next week. So, were there things that you didn't like about it?
No.
Okay, so
I want to say one of my favourite things about it was I love some of the cinematography in it. Like, there's a scene where Cal has finally become his own man. He's found his masculinity again, like Jacob's been teaching him. And you have this montage going throughout the bar where he's picking up all different women, and we're panning around the bar, and it's just like this continuous shot of Cal in different locations with different women, being a Casanova. I love it when films do that, and it's like you don't cut away. It's just this continuous shot of like a passing of time montage.
Yeah, clothes changing, and it's just
it's really cool.
Yeah, it was good. I will say there was one bit that sort of stood out for me, that I didn't like so much, and I feel a bit bad saying it really, but because what the first woman that Cal gets with after his wife has left him, after he's been trained by Jacob, is Marisa Tomei, who's a teacher. Yeah. And
that's another twist. It turns out to be Robbie's teacher.
Yeah, and she's a teacher, and she's what I quite liked about it was that she was just like, she's a recovering alcoholic, and there's that like funny bit where he's like going to buy her a drink, and
can we get you anything? I've been sober like, 5 years. No, God, no, leave us.
He's been told by Jacob that he must insist on buying her a drink, no matter what. That's one of the rules. Yeah. You will buy them a drink, and that is what you do. Yeah. And so then he goes, can I buy you a drink? And she's like, no, I am buying you a drink. And then she says she's sober. The waiter comes over. No, go away, go away, don't ever come back. But I felt like the way that relationship developed, it was funny to begin with. You know, you got this kind of freaky kind of sex stuff going on between the two of them, and then it's the parents' evening, and Cal and his ex-partner Emily both turn up at the school together, and the teacher and Robbie's teacher turns out to be Marisa Tomei. Yeah. And so you've got this awkward scene. Firstly, what I did like about it was the fact that rather than them all pretending that hadn't happened and her catching on to it, she was like, no, this did happen. Yeah. And you ask him what happened.
It's like, oh, this is my wife. Oh, she's like, your wife now. God, she's like, your wife again, is she?
Yeah. That was good. But I felt like her character went over the top. Like it almost, and I love her. I think she's great in so many things. But I just felt like she went into a different comedy. She went into almost like a Judd Apatow kind of comedy, like slightly gross out, more over the top comedy. And this had moments of that, but she just stepped out of the tone somehow, and I wonder if that was a directorial problem more than a writing problem. That was the only thing that was a bit glaring for me. Yeah. The other thing that I would say is that the whole mystery element with the daughter, us as the audience not knowing that's his daughter, and so it's a surprise to us as much as it's a surprise to Cal. I'm unsure whether that was necessary, whether we needed, did we need that shock? I don't know the answer to it. Would it have been just as effective if we'd have known that he was his daughter, and we were in on it, and we were seeing this thing happen between the two of them, and we were kind of waiting for this. I don't know whether the mystery was necessary, because it came quite late in the film, and I think that perhaps, and I've seen the film 3 times, so it's very difficult to be objective about this, but I wonder if the first time, I can't remember, but I just wonder if that would feel like a disconnect, because there's this whole side plot that's not conjoined, even though it is conjoined. I don't know. That's just a thought, really, from a writing point of view.
Yeah, I think it felt like, because it is that side plot, and it's seemingly not joined at the start, but it is joined because of that's Jacob's side of the story and everything that he's actually learned by watching Cal learn to actually be himself, to reclaim his masculinity. Because the first thing he does when he's speaking to May's character is he drops that.
To May's character?
To May.
Oh, I thought you said May as
Marissa.
in like...
Aunt May.
You slipped into Spider-Man. She is Aunt May.
Yeah. He loses that act completely, and that's actually how he finds success. It's talking about his children, talking about his divorce. And I think it's nice having this moment, and I think one of my favourite scenes in the film is that moment between Jacob and Hannah, where they go back and she says, we're not doing the PG-13 version of this, and then they do, and you have this really nice moment, which I think perfectly captures that sort of honeymoon phase of just a perfect first date. That's how I felt with that scene, and I think it was really nice to see. And I don't think we would watch it the same without knowing that, with knowing the connect to Cal, because to us this is just a woman that's been wasted years of her life. She's basically, the job that she's staying in, she could probably do better, but she's at this law firm because of she loves the man that's working there, and like you say, won't commit. I think seeing that this sort of hopeless romantic runs in the family, because the younger son has it, obviously Hannah has it, and then Cal has it, I think that's effective.
Yeah, I guess it was. Did she feel part of the family? Emma Stone's character. Did she feel part of the family? I tell you what they did actually. They did something really nice in that scene, which stood out for me from a writing and probably a directing point of view as well. Was when Hannah goes to leave, or Nana, the little daughter. She's gone inside, but she comes out and she says goodbye in like a really familiar way. And I thought it was such a simple thing to do that you could easily overlook as a writer or director, because she was already off. She wasn't in the scene. She had to come back on. But it really, that was one thing that made it feel like more of a family unit, and maybe that's why it stood out for me, was because maybe I was feeling that there was less of it, but I felt like it was a really nice little
because as well
thing.
The daughter doesn't really have much to do, the younger daughter. She doesn't, I don't know if she really speaks much.
No.
She's sort of always just in the background of things, taking things in.
No, the son is the bigger character, isn't he, with his kind of crazy love antics.
Yeah.
Reminded me of me, actually. I was a bit like that when I was at school.
What, the son?
I was a bit like sort of a romantic nut.
Yeah.
Okay. I did. I'd get like crazily obsessed about girls. I don't know why I'm admitting this in the middle of a podcast. But it did remind me of me, and I'd be doing things like on Valentine's Day, like putting like cards in and like lockers and stuff, and also being quite brave about stuff.
Yeah.
And making like myself a laughing target as well in the process.
Did it ever work?
No, not really. No. I didn't have a girlfriend for the whole of school. It wasn't until I got to college that I had a girlfriend. So they just saw me as an obsessive nut, I guess.
Yeah, I was always a hopeless romantic that didn't know how to act on it, or was too scared to act on it. So I just sort of imagined these things.
Which is a stereotype.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like a lot of the time I was like that as well, but it was just every now and again I'd be a bit braver, and Yeah.
You've reminded. Can I tell you a horrifying story of Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
I was in sixth form.
If I can tell you one after.
Yeah. Okay. So I was in sixth form. So for anyone listening that's not in the UK, that's you're 16, 15. Is it 16 to 18 sixth form? Isn't it?
Yeah. I'm glad you informed all the international listeners and viewers, because otherwise they would have been completely lost.
Yeah, we've got some in
and
Norway.
Japan.
Yeah, Japan.
Yeah.
So
and Scotland. Is that abroad? No.
That's not abroad. Glasgow know what sixth form is. So it's Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
I have a crush on this girl. I'm not going to act on it because I'm too insecure. So my friend decides to act on it for me and writes a Valentine's Day card in my name addressed to her, puts it in her locker. And there's this moment where there's like a social area that's quite a small room. There's like sofas around and some tables where we're there for break. And my mate Joe has been sort of teasing me that something big's going to happen. And I'm like, what do you mean something big's going to happen? What do you mean? And then I start getting a message from this other girl that's in my tutor that I was like quite close with, and she's mates with the girl that I liked. So I see that I start getting a message, and I instantly go red because I'm like, what the fuck has he done? And everyone's looking over there in the direction, and I see that the girl I fancy is holding this card. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. I checked my phone, and she's like, Kyle, have you sent like a letter to Eve? And I was like, no, why? And I went storming over there, and it was just one of these moments where I was so stressed. I was bright red, and you just feel so much pressure in your head, and I don't know really what I'm doing in the moment. I was like, oh no, I'm so sorry, I don't know what's happened. No, Joe's done it, he's being a dick and all this, and it was just that fight to try and look like you don't like the person that you look, and it was horrible. And it was obvious I liked her, even though the card wasn't from her, and she stormed off in a huff because she was embarrassed because this had all happened in front of like the whole fucking sixth form. And the card was, he had wrote like poetry in it and like a confession of love.
My God,
and then he tried fucking backing it up by going like, it might have worked. I was like, it was never gonna fucking work. It was never going to work. It was the cheesiest
Why would he do that?
Because he's a dick. You're a dick, Joe.
He must have thought it was going to work, though.
I think part of him hoped it would work, but half of it was just to like troll me. Just to,
okay, yeah. So he was an arsehole. I nearly said the word we avoided saying.
He is one of them as well.
So I had an experience with a Valentine's Day card as well. I can remember like going to school. It was at high school, and I can remember walking to. Shall we tell the international people when high school? No, it was at high school. So I was walking.
Well, actually, here it's secondary school. So English people, if you're listening, high school is secondary school because Lewis is an idiot and used the American term.
All right. So anyway, yeah. So I was walking to secondary school.
Yes.
And on the way, I stopped and I bought a Valentine's Day card. I was obsessed with this girl at the time. I won't say her name in case she's still traumatized by it. But
listening.
But
still following your life.
But I bought a Valentine's Day card. I was so excited about it. It was an anonymous thing. I wasn't going to put my name on it. And I don't know how I got it to her. I can't remember whether it was a locker thing or a bag thing or whatever it was. I got it anyway. It got it to her. And she'd got this Valentine's Day card, and she was so excited about it, and she was speaking to me about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, sort of quite happy about it, but also sort of pretending that it wasn't anything to me. But because I was so excited about it and obsessive and mental, I told like some of my friends, and some of my friends thought that it would be okay for that to kind of come out.
Yeah.
And she found out that it was me, and she burst out crying. It was just horrendous. I honestly, like, I can't.
Soul destroying.
I mean, it's one thing to like be, I don't know, like annoyed or whatever, but she just burst out crying, which burst my bubble.
Yeah.
And then I can remember going to geography in the afternoon, and like, I literally, like, my friends were in there. I wouldn't sit by anybody. I sat like on a corner on my own. People were trying to help me, and I was going, no, I don't want. We had to get into groups, and I was going, I don't want to get into a group. I was just like,
no.
I'm
going solo from here on.
Oh God,
it's horrible.
But it's horrible, isn't it? It's so painful, that stuff.
it's so hurtful, that sort of, especially for both me and you, it wasn't on our own accord. It was this fear of rejection that we chose to avoid it by not telling the person directly, and they found out through a friend. So we still get that piercing rejection that we've not prepared for. It's horrible.
That we're not prepared for, and we've not toughened ourselves by even putting ourselves out there in the process. So
we knew it was going to happen, and then it happens anyway.
There was no learning. There was just suffering.
It was just pain.
Yeah. So, actually, I say I was as brave as that kid. The kid reminded me of me. Yeah. I definitely wasn't as brave as him.
Of what you wish you could have been.
I wouldn't have stood up in front of everybody with, like, a big...
He had scaffolding, and he had, like, a thing, and he goes, I love you! Yeah. He should get down! Yeah. And he goes, that took me 3 weeks to build. It was good, wasn't it? Did you like it? It's great.
But, at the end of the day, he got the pictures.
So it worked. Maybe if we just did apply ourselves, and
that we would have. And at the end of the day, that would have been enough, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
At that age, that would have been enough.
That's more than enough. Talking about successes in pulling and finding love, I decided to ask my girlfriend if the Ryan Gosling pickup lines would work, because we were watching it together, and she said most of them would, which I found interesting. And then during the Dirty Dancing scene, we were watching it over the internet together on like a street teleparty. It lets you watch it at the same time, and you
lifted the TV up or the laptop up.
During that scene, the Dirty Dancing scene, we're watching it, and I had made a note in my book, and the note said, if Ryan Gosling did the Dirty Dancing trick on me, I think I would sleep on him. And Trish paused it after that point, after I'd wrote the note. And she said that would also work, and I said, and she went, put that in your notebook, because I'd already asked her about the lines that it'd work on your girlfriend. I went, I've already just made a note that it'd work on me, so let alone you. And she was like, that's fair.
I don't think they would work if Ryan Gosling said.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, would it have to be Ryan Gosling? Would it work if I said them? And she was like, some of them.
I'm not going to tell you some of the chat-up lines that I used when I was younger.
Come on.
No, definitely not going down that road. But they didn't work, and I knew they wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And I did them just to show off in front of my mates. Yeah. But it was So what were we talking about? Are we talking about a film? What's this podcast? All of a sudden it's turned into.
I think it's just. Love. This is Crazy Stupid Love from our perspective.
Definitely Crazy Stupid Love, and I'll be honest with you, this podcast could go on for hours if I went into the details of my Crazy Stupid Love.
Where do we go from it? What have we not touched on?
I think we've, to be honest, I think we've pretty much covered it.
Yeah.
I think what we're saying about this is, if you haven't seen it, definitely watch it. I apologise for us spoiling a little bit, but I don't think it will spoil the film at all. It's a good film, and it's one of those films you can watch more than once.
It's got 79% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Which I think is low.
Yeah, that's quite low.
Because, for example, A Real Pain is in the 90s.
I'd say this is one of the best rom-coms I've seen, to be honest.
A Real Pain's in the 90s, and I don't think it's a good film, and it is worth watching, and there's some good writing in it, but you can see the seams in the writing, whereas in this I didn't feel like you could so much. And it was just... Both films are enjoyable in their own way, but A Real Pain didn't offer anything that you didn't expect, whereas I think this does. It offers something you don't expect. It offers character quirks that you don't expect. It's just a nice film with a warm heart.
Yeah. I've just seen something that's quite interesting. So the writer of this, his name is
Dan
Fogelman. All before this, he practically just made Disney films. He wrote Cars, he wrote Bolt, he wrote Tangled, Cars 2, and they did Crazy Stupid Love, which I think's interesting.
And since then, he's written Only Murders in the Building.
Is it? Did he write that as
well?
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I've not seen it, but I've heard it. It's really well praised, isn't it?
Yeah, we watch it. We enjoy it. Yeah. So check it out. Should we popcorn score it?
Yeah, shit. We nearly forgot about that. That had crossed my mind. Popcorn score. This is tough. Because I really want to give it a 5, but I don't know if I should. Because I feel like it's very rewatchable. It's fun for a rom-com. It's not one of them that your girlfriend asks to be put on and you're like, oh, fucking hell, a rom-com. It seems like it's going to be one of them, and then it's not. It's hilarious. So I think I'll give it a 5 5 out of 5 sweet score.
I'm going to give it a 4.
Yeah?
Yeah, salty.
Yeah?
So that makes it 9
out of 10.
So, you know, it's
one
up
of the
there.
highest scores,
It's up there with the best.
Yeah.
Is it better than Gremlins?
Incomparable.
It's very difficult.
It's tough because so many different
it?
genres. It's.
I think, you know, if we were to compare everything to the other films we've watched, it would be.
You'd never score anything.
I thought about that, and because of that, when I was driving here today, I was thinking maybe is it a 3 or a 4?
Yeah.
But you know, after talking about it, I definitely feel like it would be wrong for it not to be a 4.
I can't not give it a 5 because I don't have any critique for it, so I feel like it'd just be a bit.
And at the end of the day,
it's just a number.
It's just a number.
Who cares?
Yeah.
It's not real popcorn.
It's like how many people you've had sex with. It's just a number.
It's just a number.
It's like how many inches. It's just a number.
2 inches is enough. It's a number. The averages are made up.
I'm going to leave the podcast on that. So 2 inches. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.